Imagine earning $50,000 a day on an investment that cost you $0 and 2 days of work. Flappy Bird is one of the cleanest case studies in modern internet economics. A $0 game built by one person, launched in 2013, ignored for months, and then it hits #1 worldwide in January 2014. And the creator voluntarily deletes it at its peak, while it's reportedly earning about $50,000 a day. This is the rise and fall timeline of Flappy Bird and what happened after the takedown, including the 2025 revival that Nguyen publicly rejected. He was described as a 29-year-old indie developer in Hanoi, Vietnam, running a tiny studio label called dotGears. Nguyen grew up in a village near Hanoi. His father ran a hardware store, and he started on a cloned Nintendo console, and he learned to code by age 16. Nguyen later stated in an interview that he began learning programming at 15, started programming games at 17, and by his second year at university, he worked at a game company before starting his own in 2011. Flappy Bird wasn't Nguyen's first release. dotGears' own pages show the game Shuriken Block, dated April 26, 2013, and Super Ball Juggling, dated November 6, 2013, both simple arcade designs that later re-entered the story as a byproduct of Flappy Bird's success. The dotGears page plainly lists release date May 24, 2013. Nguyen was the sole creator of the game. The programming took only 2 days, and he made the artwork himself, although he took inspiration from other titles which will be discussed later. The bird character was originally designed in 2012 for a different canceled platform game. The style was intended to fit a modern retro aesthetic, and the gameplay was inspired by bouncing a ping pong ball, with the overall theme drawing from 8-bit Nintendo-era design aesthetics. Nguyen said the iOS version was built using his own framework, and the Android version used AndEngine. This explains how one person shipped cross-platform quickly. Nguyen said he had strict rules for his games: cute visuals, playability in about a minute, skill-based competition, and free-to-play. He specifically described fear of the support responsibility that comes with paid users. He also described choosing portrait orientation for easier handling and chasing extremely low input latency, comparing console games often under 100 milliseconds, then stating he pushed Flappy Bird below 17 milliseconds and added instant audio feedback on taps. Before the final death animation, Nguyen experimented with the bird exploding in a more graphic way, or even bouncing across the ground. He tested hundreds of sounds before choosing the final thwack because he wanted the bird deaths to be funny and lighthearted. The initial launch, however, doesn't look like a normal viral product. Sources describe a long quiet period, then gradual word-of-mouth growth in late 2013, with Twitter complaints becoming the fuel. By the end of December, Flappy Bird had reached number 80 on the US App Store free games chart, still not mainstream, but no longer invisible. On November 17, 2013, Flappy Bird appears in a long Reddit list titled Die, Succeed, Die Again. Then, on January 17, 2014, a now archived gaming subreddit post explicitly asked people to download Flappy Bird. These were some of the early attempts at helping Flappy Bird gain its initial success before the mainstream press wave. Around this exact window, the App Store rank graph steepens. The game was ranked 313th on January 1st, 2014, breaking the top 100 by January 8th, top 30 by January 9th, top 10 by January 10th, and number 1 by January the 17th. By late January into early February, Flappy Bird shifts from popular app to global chart anomaly. Sources report that on iOS during the week January 27th to February 2nd, Flappy Bird had more global downloads than major platforms like YouTube, Facebook, and Candy Crush, and that by early February it was number 1 on iPhone top free in 107 countries and on iPad top free in 109 countries. On January 27, 2014, PewDiePie uploads Flappy Bird, don't play this game, and The Guardian explicitly flags that video as a major spur worth taking seriously, even if it wasn't the only driver. Now for the numbers. On February 5th, 2014, Nguyen tells The Verge that Flappy Bird is earning on average $50,000 a day from in-app ads, while The Verge also reports 50 million downloads and around 47,000 App Store reviews. A few days earlier, Nguyen reported that Flappy Bird was getting 2 to 3 million downloads per day across iOS and Android during the surge. At the same time, Nguyen's other games climbed too. On February 1st, 2014, sources report that Flappy Bird was the #1 free app, with Super Ball Juggling at number 2 and Shuriken Block at number 6. It was normally very unusual for one developer to hold 3 of the top 10 slots. Not long after, the backlash begins, and it starts with 2 overlapping accusations. Accusation 1: the art was ripped from Nintendo. On February 6, 2014, Kotaku publishes a headline framing the game as making $50,000 a day with Mario-like art, but later acknowledges mistakes and points readers to an apology. Accusation number 2: the ranking is cooked. On February 4th, 2014, Newsweek runs an article titled, "Is Flappy Bird Cooking Its iTunes Rank?" questioning whether the chart climb is genuine. A February 8, 2014 article describes rumors ranging from borrowed Super Mario-style pipes and background to claims that if Nintendo sued, damages could reach billions of dollars. It also points to the French developer Keck and the game Piao Piao as another alleged inspiration source. In a later interview, Keck says he contacted Nguyen, and Nguyen said he didn't know anything about Piao Piao when he made Flappy Bird. Nguyen's public posture is consistent across multiple channels. He denies legal pressure and emphasizes organic growth. TechCrunch quotes him saying he had no resources beyond uploading the game. February 4th, 2014, Nguyen tweets, "Press people are overrating the success of my games. Please give me peace." Now we hit the sad turning point. February 8th, 2014. Nguyen tweets, "I can call Flappy Bird a success of mine, but it also ruined my simple life, so now I hate it." Hours later, he posts a line that triggers the final download rush. "I'm sorry, Flappy Bird users. 22 hours from now, I will take Flappy Bird down. I can't take this anymore." And he adds, "It's not anything related to legal issues. I just cannot keep it anymore." This voluntary shutdown while at #1 on the App Store turned Flappy Bird from a really cool game into a legend. So when did it actually disappear? Many US tech outlets reported it gone on Sunday, February 9th, 2014. On February 11th, 2014, Vietnam Plus publishes what it calls the only domestic outlet interview Nguyen agreed to after the game disappeared. The headline claim? He removed it because it no longer creates joy for players the way he intended. In that interview, Nguyen says his happiness rose as the game became popular, but once he started receiving negative feedback about users obsessively playing, he felt it became addictive and he didn't think it was good for the community. He also says he felt uncomfortable not because of copycat accusations, but because he believed the game caused bad consequences. After this interview, journalists were constantly coming to his home asking questions, and his parents weren't even aware about the game until the mass media coverage. The literal day after removal, cloners rush in. Sources describe the App Store charts filling with lookalikes almost instantly. Within weeks, Apple and Google began actively pushing back against the clone wave. On February 15, 2014, sources report both companies rejected the games using Flappy in the title for trying to leverage a popular app. Within weeks, both Apple and Google began actively pushing back against the clone wave. On February 15, 2014, sources report that both companies rejected games using Flappy in the title for trying to leverage a popular app. By early March 2014, coverage suggested that a new Flappy Bird style clone hit the App Store roughly every 24 minutes during peak days. By February 26, 2014, Code.org turns the craze into education with a Flappy Bird themed coding lesson, Flappy Code, walking users through core mechanics step by step. He later ran a small game company with only 2 workers, him and a friend, and he estimated the chances of repeating Flappy Bird's level of success at 0.1%. In 2024, Flappy Bird returns again, but not as Nguyen's product. The Verge reports that a Flappy Bird Foundation claimed rights and teased new releases, while Nguyen publicly stated he had no relation to their game and didn't support crypto. And in April 2025, Polygon reports an Android return through the Epic Games Store framed as no Web3, with Nguyen still not involved and not benefiting financially. There's honestly a sad story with Flappy Bird. A simple indie game designer just wanted to build a fun game for people to play in their spare time, and as usual, The joy of the game disappears as more money made its way into the mix.
You ruined my life, Flappy.
I hope Nguyen is finally able to once again live a simple life away from the stress of the media. And I wonder how well the game would still be performing to this day if it wasn't taken off the App Store in 2014.